Okay, hi, my name is Mike, and I'm here to read a comic. And today's comic is Superboy, starring the Legion of Superheroes, issue number 202. And this is an issue I had already spoken about, but because it was a 100-page giant, I only concentrated on the new material. In this episode, I'm going to be concentrating on the reprints. And they were hard to read. They were hard to read. Talk about the blandest years of our lives. And I know Kurt Swan is a really great artist. He draws great figures. He drew great faces. He was very classy. At times he would be creative, but man, he really had a bland aesthetic. So I'm going to try to go through some of the blandness here. And we're going to go over the Legionnaire who killed. And this is a story, for the most part, I actually did enjoy this story. So just give me a moment to get to the page. And I am here. Okay, now there is some new material on top, apparently. Colossus Boy and Shrinking Violet, who opened up this issue with their featurette. Apparently, they're going to be hosting the rest of the comic book here, kind of retelling these very bland stories in Visitape, which is probably the precursor to I guess VCRs. I'm not sure. Oddly enough, there is a device here that kind of does look like one of those slide machines. I don't know if any of you guys remember that. So there was a little bit of regression in technology going into the 30th century. But I thought overall this was a good buy for any kid who picked it up. Because there are very few ads in this. There's a lot of story. You get a lot of content. And it was the comic was put together in a way where the ads were not obtrusive in any way. Although maybe they might have cut the ads out of this edition. But nevertheless, there's a lot of content. I did buy this issue back when I was 7 years old. But yeah, I think I enjoyed it. I kind of just remember that two-page spread by Cockrum. Okay, I'm going to go into it. The Legionnaire Who Killed. This is part 1. And we see a precursor to what's going on. The Legion is having a trial of one of its members, and that is Starboy, who is really badly dressed in this episode. And his haircut looks like it was mowed rather than cut. And he's being represented by Superboy. Superboy is a terrible lawyer. Lawyering was not a part of the Kryptonian DNA set, which is a little understandable because when you can kick ass like those guys, you don't need to be tactful. And the prosecutor is Brainiac 5, and we see the rest of the members looking much older than they should as they're watching this Visitape of Starboy. Removing one of the members of his home planet's citizenry. He took him off the census. And we take a look at the creative team. The story is by Edmund Hamill. A little surprised because this sort of has a little bit of Jim Shooter in it, but we see that he didn't write this issue. And the art is by Kurt Swan, Sheldon Moldoff, and George Klein. And I'm going to go into the story. We take a look. Apparently, Starboy and Saturn Girl are on duty at this point. So there's no current missions going on. So the members of the Legion, they're kind of taking some time off. We see Superboy is listed as being at base. If it says at base, that means you're in the Legion headquarters. Or the clubhouse, as they still called it. So Superboy, Starboy, Saturn Girl, Ultra Boy, Brainiac 5, Dual Damsel, Light Lass, Invisible Kid, Phantom Girl, Element Lad, Shrinking Violet, and Chameleon Boy. They're at the headquarters. And we see Montel, he's off-world. We see Matter Eater Lad, he's off-world. Colossus Boy is off-world, and Lightning Lad is off-world. Okay, so they're just kind of going through kind of this bland roll call here. We see the Legionnaires, they're having some fun here. We see Phantom Girl, she's one of the best ones. She is super loyal to anyone who's a member there. She's dancing with her boyfriend, Ultra Boy. Starboy is standing around kind of awkwardly while Brainiac 5 and Superboy are playing this kind of, I guess, kind of a video game, so to speak. This is something similar that was seen in that James Bond film, Never Say Never Again. It was the Sean Connery one from the early 80s. There was a device where Bond and the villain, the German actor Claus von Bülow, were playing something like this. So anyway, Ultra Boy is kind of just standing around awkwardly. We see some of the members, they're lining up to be kissed. We see Light Lass and Chameleon Boy, they're kissing on the lips. And next in line is Shrinking Violet. I don't know who she's going to be kissing. Is she going to be kissing Light Lass or what? It looks like Invisible Kid is behind him. So there's a little bit of a swinger vibe. And Dual Damsel, she's hanging around. She can kiss herself. But Starboy, he's not interested in this. So he's just kind of just wandering around, kind of awkwardly, kind of just wandering. And we see Invisible Kid. And he's kind of checking in with Starboy, saying, "Hey, boy, are you all right?" But he's okay. But the thing is that now the Legionnaires, they think this game here is like romance. But the thing is that Starboy kind of shies away from that when he's in the Legion. And the thing is that Dual Damsel lets us know that Starboy still has a crush for Dream Girl, who was a character that the Legion had met earlier. I think the editors had learned their lesson about just unilaterally adding characters like Matter Eater Lad and Bouncing Boy. So what they started doing is that they would try out characters, and then they would test reader reaction. So I think Dream Girl was rolled out this way, and I think that the reader reaction was pretty strong for her, because then she was immediately brought in as one of the real longtime members of the team. Turn the page. So we see Starboy. He's fantasizing about Dream Girl, so much so that she almost materializes right in front of him. Sorry, the gummies. Starboy. He's not sure whether he will ever see her again. Because the thing is, I don't think she has applied for membership of the Legion yet. And I think he's kind of hoping that she would show up. So anyway, they have some new members who want to be a part of. They have prospective new members who might want to be a part of the team. One of them is Calamity Kid, and he has the power to create disasters. Brainiac 5 just dismisses him outright, saying that, your power to jinx everything around, that tends to backfire. That's a power that can easily backfire on us. So goodbye. Maybe join the mafia and shake down construction sites with your power. And then we see another applicant. He's called Color King, and he has the power to change anything to any color. Brainiac 5 isn't dumping on his power, but he doesn't feel the power is important enough or useful enough to be a member of the Legionnaires. So I think this is a way of the editors telling the readers that, listen, we're not going to bring in any other lame characters. You see, we brought in a character called Color King. We're rejecting him in front of you. So whenever we introduce like new members, we're going to stay away from the Bouncing Boy and the Matter Eater Lad types. And for the most part, they did do that. So anyway, Starboy, he wants to go off-world. He's on Earth right now, and he just wants to check out the stars. There's no reason. He has like a family matter and some other test. No one should care about. Oh, so anyway, yeah, their dad is doing some research work. And so Starboy reaches the planet where his parents are making this ecological study of this world. So Starboy's parents are scientists, and they're scientists who study other worlds. So obviously they're off their own home world a lot. And this is a way of Starboy kind of visiting them, kind of maybe working out Dream Girl. You know, you figure he's going to have a little alone time in that ship. There's no cameras, or he'll turn them off. You know, he can just you know, slide down and just have some tissues close by. And, you know, he can kind of work out some of his issues this way. Or maybe, you know, he can find like a nice massage place on one of the moons or something. So anyway, there's a spaceship coming down to where Starboy's parents are making their home base. And it turns out to be an individual that neither one of these two guys have seen. It's Starboy and an assistant to his parents. So his parents are researchers, but they have assistants. And this is one of the assistants that was greeting Starboy here. Sorry for not mentioning him earlier, but that point will be moot in the next page. You can turn it. And this intruder, who's armed with a shield, he fires on his parents' assistant here. And Starboy sees that he's been murked. This guy's been murked. You know, he's kind of lucky. It's kind of like that show, The Hearts, Heart to Heart, where you had the two rich, you had the husband and wife, the two of them. They were rich and they had a hobby involving, you know, chasing murderers. And they had this one poor employee that they forced into this dangerous hobby. And yeah, this assistant, he kind of ended up, you know, the same way. Starboy, he does go after the assailant here, and he uses his powers. And again, he's adding some expository dialogue, I guess, for younger readers who hadn't picked up this comic before. And apparently this guy has a magic shield that can repel his power. So the thing is, this assailant came in prepared, and he knew Starboy's power set, and he understood there was a scientific way of turning the power against him. So the ray that Starboy is firing is being deflected back to him. So Starboy now is under the influence of his power, and that is to make things super heavy, kind of like, you know, waiting for a star to fall. And this has been turned against him, so he's the one who's being weighed down. And it turns out the assailant, he's giving his motive, and that he's in love with Dream Girl. And the thing is, because Dream Girl has a crush on Starboy, this guy, he's out of the loop. So he had to go back to those incel spaces. He didn't want to do that, and he was determined. Yeah, like he kind of like was a real creep here, because he was gonna murder this guy just simply because he was pissed. Anyway, it turns out this guy's really possessive here. The thing is that when you do asshole behavior like that, there's no. You're just validating the reason why that she rejected this guy. So he's getting closer and closer. He's definitely intending to murder or murk Starboy. However, the assailant, he sees Dreamgirl's spaceship, and she was somehow able to track down what's going on here. The assailant's like, I know who you are, but you're too late. Now, the assistant had a gun. I forgot to mention that. He had a gun, and when he was murked, he had dropped the gun. And Starboy sees this because he figures that, there's no use using his own power because it's just going to be deflected back to him. So he's reaching for the gun here. And he's reaching, and luckily the assailant is distracted by Dreamgirl's presence as she's coming down the spaceship. Turn the page, and we see an ad. It's for Walt Disney's Haunted Mansion. These are kind of figurines. I love this. I would have loved this as a kid. I know that the actual toys would not work as well. I know that my parents would not put it together correctly. But nevertheless, based on this art, I would have loved this. So turn the page back to the story. And we see Dreamgirl, and just as she's landing at the site, Starboy is able to grab the gun, and he fires it at the assailant. It's a shot right in the center. So this was a core shot, and he is done. He is murked. Dreamgirl runs to Starboy because she's not going to run near that dead body. And she sees Starboy. He kind of like a little worse for wear. And Dreamgirl's making it clear that she had seen what had happened, and she saw that this was self-defense. So Dreamgirl's saying, "Listen, I got your back here." And technically, yeah. I mean, Starboy didn't do anything other than wanting to continue his existence. Same way, they go to the Science Police headquarters. It turns out that Dreamgirl, her testimony alone was enough to clear Starboy of all charges. I mean, they're like looking at her going, "Wow, we believe anything you say, sweetie." By the way, I gotta say, Starboy kind of looks like this is one of the worst costumes ever. Again, I think they had to take him out. Maybe hopefully they can get a good design for his costume. Dave Cockrum did a magnificent job. He gave him a great costume. But prior to that, man, this purple outfit looks terrible. So anyway, Dreamgirl saying, I really would like you to, kind of hang around a little bit. And Starboy's like, I would love to also, but the thing is, I kind of have to make this official. As you know, I'm part of this club here. So he's going to go back to Legion headquarters and get permission to extend his stay. So then he can have some alone time with Dreamgirl. But anyway, Starboy, he gets back, he enters the clubhouse. He's all smiles, he's all relaxed. Hey, what's bugging you, buddies? You all look as grim as a hangman with a headache, and I would know. And this is the thing that's bothersome about Starboy, not that he killed in self-defense, that he's so casual and leisurely about it. He's just saying, hi guys, what happened with your weekend? Mine was kind of sort of interesting. So he's not it doesn't look like he's putting a whole lot of value in the life that he took. Gonna turn the page. It turns out Brainiac 5, he's kind of running the proceedings here because the other members of the Legion, they're sitting there in a circle waiting for him to show up. And Brainiac 5 kind of jumps on his bones here, lets him know that we know what happened and that you murked someone. And you kind of didn't think to mention this to us when you initially came in. You were just like, hey, how you doing? But you murked someone. And Starboy saying, listen, that doesn't count because it was self-defense. and I'm legally in the clear because I did this on a planet that wasn't Earth. And, we can kind of talk things out. Brainiac 5 has a lot of hall monitor energy here. This guy has hall monitor energy here. He's saying, no, we have bylaws and codes you have to follow. You violated one of the biggest one, and we need to kick you out. But the thing is, we're going to have a vote because we treat this very seriously, like our code that legionnaires do not kill. And now that they have one who has, in self-defense, nevertheless, they kind of have to ask the question, do they want this member here? So anyway, even though Starboy has not committed any crime on Earth, nevertheless, he's being detained. Element Lad is there kind of shoving him around and letting him know that he's going to have to go into a jail cell. I think this is kind of illegal because, again, the crime was not committed on that planet. We're told that Brainiac 5 is leader of the Legion at the time. So I don't know what year this came out. I'm guessing maybe 64, or 65. But nevertheless, Brainiac 5 is the leader of the Legion, so he feels it's his duty to act as prosecutor. He appoints Saturn Girl to be the judge. Obviously, he's not going to make her a stooge. He expects her to judge fairly. He's Brainiac 5. This is not personal for him. This is like, we have this code. Can we show that we can enforce it? So that's sort of the tack Brainiac 5 is taking. So he's definitely not the villain here, even though, some people might look at it with him having too much whole monitor energy. Superboy has been appointed. He volunteers to be the defense attorney, even though, as we see, his lawyering skills suck. The judge here is talking to the defendant's lawyer. Apparently, Saturn Girl wants to know why Superboy is so anxious to represent Starboy, because he was really volunteering there. And Superboy has a philosophy. He feels that, killing and murking in self-defense is fine. He says that I'm someone who doesn't worry about that. But I'm concerned about the ones who don't have my power. And they should be given every option available to extend their life. So Superboy, this is very much a philosophical thing and with him. And that's kind of interesting. So anyway, we're going through the trial. The first witness is Dream Girl, because she saw the entire thing as it happened. And Brainiac 5 just kind of lets her have her say, and then he doesn't cross-examine her. I think in part, Brainiac 5, he sees her as a fellow member of the Legion. I don't know whether she's been officially made a member at this point. But nevertheless, he's like, listen, she's just saying what she saw. And it's not anything personal. There's no reason for him to doubt her word. And like I said, Brainiac 5, he's more like trying to prove a point than actually go after someone. Then they bring Starboy to the stand. And Brainiac 5 is a bit more pressing. He's saying, listen, you claim there was no other way to save your life but to kill, murk, and delete from the census this incel. What do you say? That's pretty much what Brainiac 5 is saying. Starboy, he's offering his bland defense of there was absolutely no other way. If I hadn't done it, I would have been dead in a few seconds. Hey, fuck you, asshole. I want to live, all right? Don't get off my back here. You're trying to make a philosophical point. That's fine, or a procedural point. I'm talking about my life, my man. So that's what Starboy's saying. Turn the page. And then Brainiac 5 goes through a bunch of instances where other members were in life-threatening situations. Members that Starboy, he doesn't have this power set. Like, for example, Element Lad was about to be stabbed by this very strange-looking guy. But the thing is, Element Lad used his power to change the steel knife into harmless oxygen. One, a power set Starboy doesn't have. I mean, if Starboy used his power there, he would have made the knife heavier, which would have gone through his gut faster. Another one is Colossus Boy. He used a huge boulder to make some distance between him and kind of this what do you call those dragons? They exist on that island near Sri Lanka. I forgot their names. It's like I guess a Komodo dragon. But again, Starboy doesn't possess this power set. Yeah, he could have changed the density of the boulder, but the boulder could very well have landed flat on him. So Brainiac 5, I'm not impressed with him. And again, another guy, he's talking about Cosmic Boy. Again, this guy has the power of super magnetism. That's way more helpful than just making density heavier. And again, this is a skill set Starboy doesn't have, and he wasn't in this situation anyway. So I don't. He's just saying, you're just weak, man. You're not Legion strong like these guys. Turn the page. You see Starboy. He's aged about 25 years. He has this crew cut that looks like it was mowed, and he's just kind of like just weakly defending himself. And Brainiac 5 is actually admitting to the flaws of his prosecution points, but he's basically saying, listen, we're just gonna go over it. Starboy saying, I tried to make Ken's super heavy, but the shield he was carrying reflected my power back on me, myself. And there's they're doing a reenaction of what had happened. But the thing is that they point out that the assailant, the guy who was murked, he was under a tree. So Starboy could have used his power to make the tree branch heavier and have it fall on the assailant, which people have died from having tree branches fall on them. And again, it's like, I mean, really, the guy's trying to save his life, and you're worried about him not going through all these, Robert's rule of order points. Fuck you, Brainiac. So Superboy, he realizes that he has his work cut out for him. He's seeing Brainiac 5 just badgering Starboy in this very sad scene here. Because once again, I said Starboy is just so badly dressed. He looks like the poor kid of the school. Okay, we see an in-house ad for Weird Adventure Comics. I think it was issue number 433. This is the Jim Aparo era of the Spectra. And I love those comics. These comics were so mean-spirited. There was a story that one of the editors had gotten mugged, and it caused him to go through this like extreme vigilanteism, and all these fantasies he had of just brutalizing criminals. This was 74, but the following year in 75, Death Wish was released, and that very much fell in line, the tone of that movie, kind of with the tone of these comics, except what this guy does to the criminals is way worse. So I kind of recommend it. Also, the art's really great, too. So we're going to go to part 2, The Verdict of the Legion. And we're going to see how the court case goes. We see Starboy, he's locked up in the brig. Element Lad, he's really using that authority. He's saying, you have 30 minutes, Dream Girl. Make it good. I'll be watching. So anyway, the two Starboy and Dream Girl, they're alone together. Dream Girl's trying to keep up Starboy's hopes, saying that Superboy, he's coming up with some defense, and he's going into this research, kind of making it look like Superboy's doing something. Starboy, he just cares that Dream Girl's here. She's beautifully drawn here. Looks, I guess, a little like Lana Turner. Although I know she was based on Marilyn Monroe, Dream Girl. Yeah, she has that kind of Marilyn Monroe look. She's fucking beautiful. Let's see. Starboy is asking Dream Girl to use her powers of premonition. She does come up with something. Her power has always been somewhat vague. Her predictions are accurate, but the thing is, she doesn't get specific information about what's going on. They're having a little soap opera moment here, and just gonna go past this. Then we see Superboy again. He's looking at the slideshow, which, if you were a kid of the 1970s, you knew what those were. And looking through the videotape, saying, and noticing that Light Lass, she was able to prevent. She was able to stop a couple of cavemen here, Geico cavemen here, from having a rock land on her using her powers. She didn't kill those guys. Dual Damsel, she didn't murk this creature. So basically he's finding all the situations where a member of the Legion might have possibly been in a position to kill, but they didn't. We see one of the most embarrassing moments with Matter Eater Lad. He's fighting this Zorn character, and he's just using his powers to eat to bite through the gun here. The other story has kind of an embarrassing, Matter Eater Lad moment. Superboy's surprised. Wow, even that lame-o turned out to be helpful, kinda. So anyway, Superboy thinks he sees something, and then he asks for Starboy's help. And he says, I'll come along and do what you want. Oh yeah, Montel is getting Starboy, because Starboy's off-world, and Montel is bringing him back there. Then we see that the trial is being monitored by the Legion of Substitute Heroes, and they're greatly invested in what they're doing. This is like the minor league team caring about the major league team. And turn the page. Then we see the trial. It's going in order. Chameleon Boy, he had this pet called Prody, who could also shift shapes. And that does play a role in it. But here it's kind of just some lame-ass humor. Saturn Girl says the court is in session. And they're asking for Superboy since he was he's the defense. He barely reaches it, so he uses his super speed to get to the courtroom. And he starts his defense of Starboy. And Superboy asks, first thing he asks is, can you like change the law? Can you change the law? The law that my client he broke. Can we forget that was actually a law that was enforceable? This is the very first thing he's asking. Again, this kid is terrible at lawyering. And Superboy's just kind of listing the reasons why he wants to change the law rather than defending his client against breaking it. And he's saying that there's another Legionnaire who killed. So he's sort of making this Perry Mason moment. Saturn Girl's like, who is he? And then a very surprised-looking Brainiac 5 sees Superboy pointing at him, saying, you murked someone. You murked someone. and they show a Vista tape of this happening. This very Star Trek scene here of Brainiac 5 having a shootout against an armed assailant. And Superboy's like, you see? And Brainiac 5 says, listen, I don't regret shooting him. I don't deny shooting him. But turn the page. But I can tell you that Superboy did not look at the entire tape. He only saw part of it. And it turned out that the assailant I was shooting at and aiming to kill was actually a robot, and I knew he was a robot. And so Brainiac 5 is saying, listen, this doesn't count because I didn't have to worry about taking a life because there was no life there to begin with, and I knew that already. So Superboy's kind of looking like he has some egg on his face. Somehow Brainiac 5 is bringing his dad into it. This guy has daddy issues. Like, this point has absolutely nothing to do with his dad, but he spends an entire panel just ranting about his dad, you know. So this guy has daddy issues. And so Superboy, the point has been struck down, and he kind of looks bad. Starboy's like, you know, hey, you suck at this, don't you? Superboy's saying, don't worry, I haven't even begun to fight yet, which is code for I suck at doing this. So during a little recess here, we see Starboy and Dream Girl. They're together. Element Lad, he's cucked here. He's just watching these two. Probably he's either totally pissed off or totally turned on by this. And we see Chameleon Boy, and he's leaving with Prody. That's kind of like the shape-shifting pet of Chameleon Boy. And Superboy's looking at him saying, I got an idea. Turn the page. So then we go to a zoo, and it turns out there's a very dangerous creature that's behind bars. Superboy frees this creature and arranges to have this creature enter the courtroom. And obviously the Legionnaire members, they panic. They're trying to see whether, you know, any member here would kill this creature, because this is a very dire situation. Brainiac 5 won't run. He probably smells a rat at this point. The other members are blandly shocked at what's going on. And it turns out that there was no danger at all. It was Prody. And Brainiac 5 knew it was Prody. And it had something to do with the dripping acid. So Prody can look like the creature, but he can't impersonate the powers. So he couldn't create acid dripping claws. So Brainiac 5, yeah, he sniffed out a really bad stunt here. Superboy, he was like, gosh darn it, I thought that would help. Brainiac 5 is just kind of ignoring him, just, you know, going on with his case. Turn the page. So then Brainiac 5 concedes that maybe changing this code is something that we could do in the future, but we're not talking about changing the code. We're talking about enforcing it. And those are two different things. And we have this code in place, and we need to enforce it because guess what? It was broken. Now, Starboy, being a bit of a clunkhead, he thinks that Brainiac 5 conceding this point means that he won the case. And Brainiac 5 is splashing some reality on him by saying, listen, you broke the code, even though I'm okay to considering changing it, but it's in place, you broke it, I'm enforcing it because I'm the leader and I want it enforced to its fullest effect. So that's what Starboy is up against here. Superboy, he makes his defense. He's just trying to say, oh, come on, guys, don't be a narc. So he's kind of going that route. And And then Saturn Girl, who's the judge, she says, listen, I've heard both sides, and now we're going to vote on the judgment. Saturn Girl, even though she was the judge, she also gets to vote. Now the first 9 votes are in. It looks good. It looks kind of good for Starboy. It's like 5-4. Superboy's saying that we almost got all the girls, except for Saturn Girl. That hoe. We got the other hoes on our side. And Superboy's, he's just happy that his centering on the female demographic is working here. Because so far voting, Dual Damsel not guilty, Superboy not guilty, Phantom Girl not guilty. Phantom Girl is never going to say guilty to a member. Brainiac 5 says guilty. Chameleon Boy says guilty. Element Lad says guilty because he enjoyed pushing Starboy around. Light Lass says not guilty. Shrinking Violet says not guilty. But Saturn Girl goes guilty. So that's the tally so far. And you can turn the page. Tallies are coming in. Montel's not guilty, but Sunboy is guilty, and Ultra Boy is not guilty. So the 3 most powerful members, the ones who are least likely to need, to kill, actually are sympathetic to the ones who can't. They're like, listen, we can go into a situation not worried about getting murked, but you guys, you can't do that. But these 3 guys, Superboy, Montel, and Ultra Boy, they're like, we're with you guys. We're with you guys. We want you to murk. Some boys are guilty. Lightning Lad is not guilty. Cosmic Boy is guilty. Colossus Boy is guilty. Or he votes guilty. Jimmy Olsen votes guilty, little weasel. And Supergirl is not guilty. Again, she's on the level of Superboy and Montel and Ultra Boy. And the final 2 votes, Matter Eater Lad, guilty. You know what? His value to the Legion is that he's a member of the Legion. And if you can get rid of 1 member, that's 1 less member laughing at him. And Invisible Kid votes guilty. So the verdict is 10-9. And Starboy has been officially expelled from the Legion. And Saturn Girl, as judge, she passes the judgment. The judgment is that they're expelled. We see that Starboy is making the walk of disgrace. We see some of the members of the Legion. They're upset. Their heads are down. They're probably thinking sucker. So we're gonna turn the page. And the expulsion is the punishment, because listen, this quote unquote crime did not happen on Earth. So the thing is, Starboy has been he's been expelled. Dream Girl, I don't think, was a member of the team officially. She's like, fuck those assholes. We can just ride around the universe and just enjoy ourselves. But then meeting them is the Legion of Substitute Heroes. These are the throwaways. They're the ones who tag along with the big boys in the neighborhood, and they offer Starboy a chance to join the team, so he can be an official has-been or never was. I guess having 2 members of the Legion there kind of gives him a little bit of credibility. He gets to be the big fish in the small pond, and then they fly off to parts bland. This issue was really bland, and that's it. And we see coming soon is OMAC, the one-man army. And this is when Jack Kirby was kind of going, he had become disillusioned with DC, and he was probably looking to return to Marvel. And I think at this time, both Jack and DC knew that he was just running out the contract at this point. But nevertheless, OMAC was a title I did enjoy. The only Jack Kirby title I never warmed up to was the Demon. I liked the way the Demon was used in other comic books, but I didn't like Jack Kirby's run, although I probably should give it another chance. Okay, so I'm going to have a second story to read, and it's going to come up in a few moments. And again, we see our two Legionnaires, Shrieking Violet and Colossus Boy. They're talking about this adventure here, kind of. Again, according to the comic, these guys, they're both pretty far from Earth. So they kind of have a long space travel ahead of them. So you figure they're probably on autopilot most of the time. And they're just, kind of laying around watching these videos. So anyway, this story comes up. It's a two-parter. Again, the blandest years of our lives here. And it's pretty much the same creative team. This is kind of a take on, I think, the movie Stalag 13. That was a William Holden film that came out in 1953. And for whatever reason, prisoner of war films, TV shows were popular. I know as a kid I loved Hogan's Heroes. And obviously this issue was before Hogan's Heroes, but there was something in the Geistdice, if that's how you pronounce it, that, kind of enjoyed, prisoner of war stuff. So anyway, we see that the members of the Legionnaire, they're being held in this sort of camp-like place. There's barbed wire, there's fences. The men are separated, I should say the boys are separated from the girls here. Although we see the guards, and the guards are kind of like this big, three-headed creature. Invisible Kid is kind of thinking to himself, with big brothers, narcos, android, bully boys keeping watch, even Houdini couldn't escape from this Huskow. The pessimism in me says we're all going to be knocked off like the 10 little Indians. Okay, so it's kind of a bleak situation there. We go into the story immediately. We see the members of the Legionnaire, and it looks like they're part of a chain gang here. They're forced labor. It looks like they're mining for something, or they're being forced to mine. None of them are using their powers. It looks like the guards have a way of negating them. We see an apparent escape, and it looks like it was Superboy who was trying to escape, and he was trying to go underground, and the guards see him, and they attack him with this kryptonite ray. So we don't know whether Superboy has received a big enough bolt of it, but it turns out that it actually wasn't Superboy. It was Chameleon Boy pretending to be Superboy. So I guess the kryptonite rays didn't bother him. Then we see Narco, who's apparently the main villain here. He's kind of running this as like Colonel Klink in Hogan's Heroes did. Brainiac 5, he's kind of playing the role of Colonel Hogan here. It looks like Narco wants some information from Brainiac 5. Brainiac 5's not giving it up. Then we see this escape, this very humiliating escape, where Matter Eater Lad is eating a tunnel. So he and another inmate can escape. First of all, the shame of Matter Eater Lad being on the ground and eating rock and dirt and mud and all that is bad enough. But there's an inmate right behind him, and he's been whiffing those anal vapors from Matter Eater Lad. So this has to be like one of the most humiliating escapes ever. So finally, the two are able to get out and desperately try to retain their dignity. However, it looks like Narco's guards have already seen these two. And the guards are informing Matter Lad and this other kid that they're going to be murked. They're going to be, summary executed. Turn the page. But it turns out the kid that was with Matter Lad, he has a power. And he's Blockade Boy. And Blockade Boy can turn himself into a large, heavy block that can blockade any type of ray. And the narco guards, they hit Blockade Boy just as he's changing into a large block. However, that's not enough to save him. The ray overcame him, and he was dead. And his big thing in life was he saved the life of Matter Lad, the most useless member of the Legion. I mean, on one hand, his family's going to say, hey, our relative, a descendant of ours, they saved a Legionnaire, an active member of the Legionnaire on duty. They're going to ask who. They're going to kind of look around a little uncomfortably and say, Matter Lad. And probably, then laughter will ensue. So anyway, Matter Lad, he's crying here. He didn't realize anyone cared about him. Here's a guy who eats bolts and other, tire chains and stuff like that. So Matter Lad survived the blast here. That Blockade Boy didn't. So Matter Lad's going to put into solitary confinement because they do have to punish him for attempting to escape. On the female side of the concentration camp, Light Lass, Saturn Girl, and Dual Damsel, they saw what happened with Matter Lad. Turn the page, and then we see the boys' side of the concentration camp. One of the guards summons Weight Wizard, and Weight Wizard gives some really bad acting here, going, "Oh, they're giving me still more work to do? Narco loads extra labor on me because he hates me the most. Don't suspect me as a snitch." And Brainiac 5 is wondering, this kid, Weight Wizard, doesn't seem to look overworked. And it turns out Brainiac 5 kind of has this listening device. He activates the listening device. It can float in the air, and it does, and it follows Weight Wizard, and he's in Narco's headquarters, his citadel, and he's being questioned by Narco, but in a very friendly way. So it very much, Weight Wizard is a snitch, and he's snitching out to Narco. And apparently Weight Wizard would get extra food rations if he just kind of gave more and more important information. And it turns out that Narco says that he has limited information about what's going on because they don't really fully trust him. And Brainiac 5 sees why, because his eavesdropping device that he had floating around following Weight Wizard is in the office. So Brainiac 5 has kind of the bug. He's bugging the office. Turn the page. Then we see Weight Wizard. He comes back. The other members, they look like they have shanks in their hands. This is so funny. It looks like they have shanks in their hands. And they're about to give him some prison yard justice here. Weight Wizard. So the members, legionnaires and non-legionnaires, because there are non-legionnaires in this concentration camp. They all try to bum rush Weight Wizard. Weight Wizard has his name because he can control his own density. I'm not sure whether he can control the density of other things, like Starboy or Lightlass can do. But it looks like Weight Wizard can control his own density. So he can make himself as light as he wants to be, which means that he can kind of run around circles, and he can actually kind of hop along the bedpost here, the bunk beds, simply because he can lower his density, so it doesn't take too much muscle power. And he apparently, because of the light weight and because he retains his muscle strength, he can actually kind of jump like a bunny rabbit. So anyway, turn the page. It turns out Weight Wizard, he tries to find some blockage, for lack of a better word, from Narco's guards. So he runs behind Narco's guards and kind of shivering like a little pussy. Narco's guards, they have these powerful ray weapons. It keeps the members of the Legionnaire in check. Then we see that the because of the ruckus in the where they have their housing, the bunker, I don't know what they call it, the blockade. Because of this, all the male members of the Legionnaires, they have to come out at midnight. The lights are on in the concentration camp, and I think they're using that as punishment. So because of all the ruckus with Weight Wizard, the members of the Legionnaires, they're getting punished here collectively. Turn the page. So anyway, it turns out that these guys are being worked to the bone here, and Weight Wizard returns. So Weight Wizard, after he was in protective custody, he's back in Gen Pop. He is contrite. He does want to make amends for what he did for being a snitch, and so they plan on using him. And one of the things they do is they ask him to escape. So he does so. He escapes from the prison, and he goes through the foliage where the concentration camp is. The concentration camp is on this largely desolate world, but it does have some greenery, sort of like Planet of the Apes. And Weight Wizards is going through that. You see these creatures here. Turn the page. Then we see Narco's guards. They're chasing. They know Weight Wizard is around. Weight Wizard is using the fact that he can lower his density to kind of help him frog leap, so to speak, and make up some ground. So he can always outrun his opponent simply because he can make himself much lighter, so his muscles, they're much more powerful. And we see that there are these huge lily pods, and we see one of them. Weight Wizard is caught in this lily pod here, kind of like the way a Venus flytrap captures him.
Don't touch that chest. It's a trap.
So this guy's dead. He was sent on a suicide mission. Basically the other members of the Legionnaires, they murked this guy. Not directly, but they led to this guy being murked. And Narco's guards are laughing at this. So this is humiliating, because not only did the other members of the Legionnaires, they murked this guy, but he's being laughed at. The last thing he's going to hear are these guys laughing at him. Turn the page. So then we're up to part two. This is Dual Damsels Double Play. So there's a lot of time has been spent on the boys, but now the girls are gonna shine. But we still have to look at the guys first. Narco, he's checking, he's making a roll call of the prisoners. He notices that Invisible Kid is missing, so he's ordered his guards to search for him. Invisible Kid, he's hiding, but he's also invisible. But it turns out, like Narco, he has like these 3 heads and 3 eyes, and because of his vision, he kind of has this X-ray vision type thing. So Invisible Kid being invisible isn't a problem for him. So then, Narco has a ray that can force Invisible Kid to shrink down to the size of a flea. So, Invisible Kid is thinking to himself, now he knows how shrinking Violet feels. Turn the page. So now Invisible Kid, he's the size, he can fit on Narco's fingers here. So it's sort of like Land of the Giants. Invisible Kid, he's been let go to his own devices, and Narco's figuring that, just him being that size, he'll run into something that will kill him. Invisible Kid, he gets caught in a spider web, and then there's a huge spider here that looks really weird. Kind of looks like a hippie here. And he looks like he has a scrambled egg on his head. He looks like he has a beard, and he has 2 headphones to the side. This is very weird. And then we see Invisible Kid. He sees that the spider's been spooked, but it's been spooked because of a rat that's behind him. So Invisible Kid, first he was worried about he was going to get murked by the spider. Now he looks like he's a meal for the rat. Turn the page. The rat is chasing Invisible Kid here, breaking through the spider webs. Then, for some reason, the rat is running back to a hole in the wall, and it turns out that Invisible Kid was in I guess the Stalag, you could say, but he's still at that size, and the other members of that building, like the other members of the Legionnaire, they're coming in, and they don't realize that Invisible Kid has been shrunk to this size. So, Invisible Kid, he has to get the attention of one of the kids, and it turns out to be Cosmic Boy. Invisible Kid kind of name drops Sir Edmund Hillary, and he was the first guy, I think, or first guy credited with going to Mount Everest. And Invisible Kid is whispering in the ear of Cosmic Kid, and he's saying, "Hey, listen, I need to I need a bodyguard until this ray stops affecting me." And I think the ray was set for 6 hours. So after 6 hours, the ray was going to reverse itself, and Invisible Kid would be back to normal size. But until then, he kind of needed protection because of his disadvantage of being the size of a flea. And turn the page. Okay, I've seen this stuff before. Okay, so there were some ads that I had seen before, no big deal. And I'm going to go into the rest of the story. So anyway, Brainiac 5 and Chameleon Boy, they're trying to come up with a plan. They're worried because they have a time limit, because Matter Eater Lad was scheduled to be executed. I'm sure some of the members of the Legionnaire are thinking, can we kind of get rid of this guy? Let Nardo have his little victory here. But no, they're not going to do that. So anyway, we finally get to the females, because they're girls, and it turns out they found out about what's going on with Matter Eater Lad. Saturn Girl is going to try to get into telepathic contact with Brainiac 5. It turns out it does work, so the two are able to cross ideas to each other. Brainiac 5 doesn't want any girls helping him. Saturn Girl saying, listen, we're just as worthy as you are, and get your incel ego out of the way. So the thing is that because Brainiac 5's kind of chauvinism here, Saturn Girl is going to lead the women because she views the guys as just being total dickheads, and they're going to plan their escape. So the girls go into action. Dual damsel, she splits, so now she's 2. They're gonna wait there till dark. What happens is that Light Lass uses her powers on the gate to make things extra light. I've never known her powers to have that type of lasting ability, because whenever they highlighted her powers, it was always an at the moment thing. And the moment that she stopped exerting her power, whatever the object was at its normal density would return. And here it's kind of implying that once Light Lash uses her powers on that part of the fence, it will stay low density, which they can break. Turn the page. So then the part that Light Lass had lightened, we see Dual Damsel there, and she lifts it up, and because that portion of the fence is lighter, and because she has double the strength of a normal teenage girl, she's able to lift the fencing there, and she's able to escape. So at this point, Dual Damsel is escaping. She has to be on the lookout for all the monsters. And then Dual Damsel, I think she heads to the boys' prison camp. And then she kind of makes a mess of the lighting system there. And the lighting system is attracting the monsters in the swamp. So, it's a terrible analogy, but it's sort of like alligator Alcatraz, where the alligators are acting kind of like as a natural guard against escapes. I guess the same way that you could say that sharks acted that way in the real Alcatraz. Although it was actually the cold water and the powerful currents that did that. But nevertheless, we see this happening where the animals of the night, the alligators are just swarming on the prison. And turn the page. And the creatures, they break into the boys' part of the concentration camp. All the members of the Legionnaire, they start running. None of them have their powers active, and it hasn't been explained why that's the case. Assuming that Narco kind of took their powers away. So Narco confronts them right here in mid-escape. Can turn the page. Then Element Lad changes the elements of Narco's outfit into lead. So the thing is, it looks like Narco has nuclear-powered energy, but because of the lead, he can't use it, and the nuclear power is kind of stuck there in this kind of lead cocoon. And then there's something in Narco, I think a ray, a truth ray, just really corny. But yeah, it's not working. Narco's saying, go take a dive in a dried lake. I'll never order the girls to release the girl prisoners. I'll never order the guards. Sorry, gummies. Brainiac 5 is saying, thanks. I caught your words on this tiny superpowered recorder. Chameleon Boy, you and Invisible Kid stay here. And free Matter Eater Lad. The rest of you come to me and retain your dignity. And then, Superboy, I think he has a recording of Narco. He uses this recording against Narco's guards. Narco's guards are androids. So, so yeah, you kind of have that going on. So the thing is, because of this, I guess when Narco's android guards heard this recording, he thought it was Narco. And that's what Brainiac 5 is doing. That's why I said this is really hard to read this. Turn the page. Take a quick look at this ad. The one on top isn't a big deal to me. The one on the bottom, these superhero stick-ons. I think my mom bought a packet of this for me. I think I got it in the mid-70s. And they were really great. But honestly, they didn't stick that good. Turn the page. Take a look at this Kung Fu ad. This artwork is terrible. But yeah, that was the big rage back in '74, Kung Fu. Okay, going back to this very bland story. So anyway, the boys are freed. They freed the girls. They're very happy. Narco's guards, they do what the voice tells them what to do, and the voice is telling them to let everybody go. Narco was stuck in that lead apron of his, but he found a way to get out by melting the lead, I should say. And he catches some of these members of the Legionnaires off balance with his nuclear power. Narco says, Doomsville is your destination, Matter Eater lad. He really has it out for Matter Eater lad. He's like saying, dude, you're an embarrassment. If anyone found out I beat the Legion and you were a member of it, oh, I'll never live it down. So anyway, Narco's determined to have this execution. So he ties up Matter Eater lad, gets a blindfold on him. Some of his guards, they're ready to sort of summary execute him at the firing squad. And then suddenly some more members of the Legionnaires show up. This is kind of funny. They're about to fire. Narco goes, ready, aim. Huh? Montel, Ultra Boy, and Superboy. Impossible. I killed them. And then he says, anyway, fire. Turn the page. Superboy, he deflects the ray from the guards. A little bit hits Matter Eater lad, but not enough to kill him. Superboy, he sees Matter Eater lad on the ground. This is like a Tony and Marie moment in West Side Story. Superboy's about to kiss Matter Eater lad. And you see, Matter Eater lad, they got him in spite of me. And Narco says, get the kryptonite weapons out, but no, there's no doing that. Montel and Ultra Boy, they're on the job. They knock out the guards. The members of the Legionnaire, they're checking on Matter Eater lad because he was hit by some of the discharge from the weapons from the guards. But it turns out that instead of killing him, it ballooned him. So he's severely overweight, like Bouncing Boy. I think the thinking is that Matter Eater lad can eat any material, and his body is able to change it to energy. So, because of that, when the rays hit Matter Eater lad's body, the powers that allowed him to digest anything were probably working to absorb that power from the guardsmen's nuclear powered rifles. So it looks like Matter Eater lad kind of absorbed that excess energy. So rather than digesting it internally, he digested it or absorbed it externally, if that makes any sense. So Superboy's there saying, hey, you're one fat mofo. You are one fat mofo. And, kind of, again, super dickery here. You're kind of laughing at this guy. Well, let's laugh at the fatso. we see Bouncing Boy. Bouncing Boy had since lost his power, so he was just like a regular thin guy who still had kind of a pot belly of steel. And he's making fun of Matter Eater Lad. He's finally realizing, hey, I can make fun of this guy now. Matter Eater Lad, he just takes it, you know. This is a guy who should be happy that he was invited to the party. And that's it. And I think that's going to be it for the story, because I cannot read that last Superboy issue. So anyway, that's it. And that is the conclusion of Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes issue number 202. And I hope to have more reviews up soon. Bye.